Okay, hi, I'm Chauncey,
And I'm Heather.
and we're the co-founders of So She Slays. We're here with Taye Hansberry. We're so excited. Like, she's not only a blogger, but she's an activist, a lifestyle blogger, fashion blogger, and I've been following her forever. So I'm super excited to have you here.
Thank you.
And welcome to So She Slays.
I'm so
Yes.
excited. I was telling someone earlier, I was like, I remember when we kind of first connected and you guys were like a smaller program. And I was telling my friend today, I said, they've like surpassed me in following and everything. I'm like, I'm so happy for them.
Oh, thank you.
We've been following you for a really, really long time. So we've been wanting
forever
to make this happen
Thank you.
for I can't even remember how long.
Yeah.
I think it was like our first year, you liked one of our posts, and I remember I like text Heather. I was like, oh my god, Taye just liked her posts, and I've been following her before this forever. When she was like, stop, when you had your old one stuff that she likes,
yeah.
So I was like so excited. So I was like, I can't even help myself right now.
I've been having some nostalgic like stuff she likes moments. I'm like, do I need to change my name back to stuff she likes?
It was a good one though. I love it.
I don't know why I changed. I was listening to people. You need to
know
your brand, you know.
Don't listen to people.
So this is part of the So She Slays show that we are launching with lovely Taye. You're our first guest and our first episode of the first So She Slays show. Yes. So today's topic is how to pull up for POC. So if you don't know what POC is, person of color, people of color, that is what it stands for, and it is so very relevant in today's culture, especially in today's climate. And we really felt like we needed to talk about it because we've had a lot of friends, family, and followers ask us questions on how exactly do I pull up for people of color? What do I need to do? How do I be an effective ally? So what better way than to sit down and have a conversation about it? We're going to hear from Taye right now. I mean, you're a fashion influencer for sure. And everybody who has followed you knows that. But recently, and rightly so, you've kind of just switched up your aesthetics and said, you know what, we need to talk about this. So what went through your mind at that moment when you're like, no, this is what's happening. We're switching the aesthetics.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, in terms of this, let me back up. So I've kind of always sprinkled in, if you've followed me for a while, you probably know, always like when stuff is happening in the world, sprinkled in posts like here and there. It's like, I don't consider myself an activist because I feel like there's people that work on this stuff all day, every day. And that's definitely not me. But when I see something happening, for example, the last presidential election, I voiced my opinion a lot, but I've always like all of us, I've always kind of like been like, oh, make sure the feed, like do it. And then make sure I like flood my feed with, what I'm doing for work. But this week, I think along with a lot of people, I'm like, nope. And all this stuff that, I say to people in the world, or I say to my family or conversations, it's just been pouring out of me. And I'm like, I got to get it out. So it's been an interesting week, and I can't wait to get into it with you guys about it, because it's just like, it's been really eye-opening and like really emotional and for everybody. But like for me, my eyes have just been like, whew,
open.
Yeah.
So let's
like literally
let's talk about those moments.
Tell us about everything. Let's get into it.
It's like, so, I started noticing, maybe I think it was like last week, when you have like a bigger following, you guys probably know this, you lose followers all the time. So that's like a normal thing. That's just normal. And when it first starts happening, you panic, but then you're like, okay, this is just how it goes. This week, like I've gained probably 5,000 followers and I've lost almost just as many. So it's really interesting because I'm like, okay, it's fine when I sprinkle it in a little bit and it's very neutral and they don't have my followers, or those followers don't have to see it all the time. But, this week's been a little more Black power, a little more
in your face.
Very in your face. And I think a lot of people following me were not used to that. And especially if they started following me, I haven't really been that like that since the last election, which was 4 years ago. So I've sprinkled it in. But so I think a lot of people, for whatever reasons, got scared off. And so I watched that happen. And then I've also watched, just kind of like just today, or throughout the week, I've, kind of watched how from kind of both sides, I was in I'll call it a conversation with um, a Black guy this morning who, I don't know if he thinks I'm white, or I think he thinks I'm trying to be white.
I saw that.
Yeah. And I was like, is this guy serious? Like, really? Like, yeah. This has opened my eyes. I don't know how anyone who follows me or anyone who looks at my page doesn't know I'm Black. It's mind-boggling to me because I show my family all the time.
And your last name
is Hansberry.
Like just a quick Google search, it'll all explain.
If people do not know, please tell them who your family is, Taye, so people will know that you are as Black as can be.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. So I'm from, my mom's side of the family is the Hansberry family, and it's Lorraine Hansberry. And Lorraine Hansberry, iconic playwright, wrote A Raisin in the Sun, super activist. That she was an activist. That was an activist. My great-grandfather, Carl Hansberry, is the reason why Black people can live in any neighborhood they want to in Chicago, because he took his case to the Supreme Court to allow him and his family to live on the south side of Chicago when it was all white. His brother, William Leo Hansberry, has a building named after him, I believe, at Howard University. Mm-hmm. He's like a huge, I believe, anthropologist. I get archaeologist and anthropologist confused. Same thing. So, it's like my grandma Mamie, who's Lorraine's sister, she was a poet. Well, she's still alive. She's a poet and a painter and like always talking about racism. So like I'm from this family that is like always talking about this. And then on my dad's side, I have my cousin is Issa Rae. So like obviously I'm Black. I have a Black cousin who is like really well known. So hi guys, I'm from a Black family.
Just to remind you guys.
Like it's weird because like throughout my life I've had instances where people don't know I'm Black, and I've heard things, and I talked about that in Instagram posts and stuff, and it's just been really amplified and concentrated this week rather than sprinkled throughout like my life. So it's really, I have to honestly say it's very hurtful, it's very hurtful. And, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I might seem tough, but I'm not.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot. So on top of that, I've had numerous conversations. I'm the person who likes to like, let me teach you something. And I've had these moments with, various Caucasian people. And I've tried to post a couple of them in my story so you guys can see just like what, like, it's just constantly coming at me. And at a lot of people, not just me, obviously. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been dealing with, on top of dealing with kind of reflecting on what I've been going through, what I've gone through, what I've tucked away and put away and chosen to try to forget, and what's been coming up to the surface. All of that at once, I think, for myself and people of color. I think this is a Black movement right now. I keep doing that. This
like,
is a
really
this is a Black movement. This is a Black movement.
Like our
right
parents.
Now. Right. However, I don't want people to miss the fact that things that happen to Black people trigger things that have happened to other people of color.
It's a cycle.
It's a cycle. And I feel like Asian people and Hispanic people and Indian people and Native American people are all being triggered and forced to deal with a lot of things that we've dealt with, in this country and around the world. But, right now we're focused on this country. So, I don't want that to be missed. It's a Black movement. I think the Black aspect of this movement kind of started a greater conversation.
So you said earlier about how a Black guy said that you were not Black.
Yeah,
what does that even mean?
I'm gonna let me see if I can find it so I can just read you this ridiculous
I just don't understand.
That's one thing I cannot. I don't. It's like it's within the race. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah. It's like
and I'm just like,
stop.
I think people, and I've said this before, and I actually have had conversations with other people before about this. I feel like I did a video about this.
Yeah.
few days ago. Black people, we are a wide range of aesthetics. You know what I mean?
There's different versions of us walking around every day. And we even have different versions.
Yeah, I have cousins that are blonde, blue-eyed, completely straight, not a coil, texture, wave, anything to their hair, and they consider themselves Black. And I have cousins who are like, my grandpa is like dark-skinned Black man from Louisiana. So it's like my entire family is like a display of the range that Black people are. So it really confuses me sometimes when my own people don't understand that. I think that gets lost on us sometimes.
I do agree with you because my full family were different skin tones. Like my sister's light skin, and people always think she's half white, even though like, you know, my dad has half white in his side, but people like, oh, you're mixed. And she's just like, no. And I can honestly say she's a strong Black woman. Like she's strong and she's younger than me. And then people always tell me, you don't have Black people's features. What are those features supposed to look like?
Right.
Yes. I'm sorry that like your hair is not as like kinky. Right. I'm sorry that I have, you know, more wavy hair, but that's how it is. And even in your Black community, people judge you in your own Black community.
Totally.
And that's sad, but it's true. Like I have white people like, oh, you look like you're mixed.
Right. Exactly. And I'm like, you know what my answer to that is a lot of times? Like someone will say, well, how do you look the way you look? And my flat out answer is slavery.
I mean, but that's the truth.
There's a little thing in U.S. history called slavery where Black
Thomas Jefferson
constantly and had babies all the time. So everybody is a mixture. If there's two things I would say that. Sorry, I keep cutting you off.
I'm sorry. No, everyone's mixed somehow. Like Thomas Jefferson alone had like all these babies.
Children with that woman. Some of them, and this leads into my next point. I think 2 or 3 of them looked very white, so they went on and
white passing.
White. Yeah, and I always say this other thing on top of that. I always say I want every white supremacist in this country to take a 23andMe test because half of them will go jump off a bridge. Literally.
Yes. That's very true because people don't know that they are. Like I'm like, you know that you're part of something else, right? Like,
hey, my mom is Caucasian. She's white. She has Nigerian blood in her.
Exactly.
You know,
23andMe.
Exactly.
But like,
I'm like,
yeah, exactly. And you're like, so everyone's something. Like Heather, you're Chinese and white, and now Nigerian on the low now.
Right. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Right. So yeah, this guy this morning said, I'm just going to read like one thing. He said, so he said, I'm the bane of human existence. Lovely.
Okay. Why?
And I was like, why is that? I was just like, what? Why is that? That's all I said. And he says, the fact that you pretend not to know is enough. Keep fading your pics like white, like your profile pic. You can't hide. All right, that's interesting. I'm like, you do realize I'm a Black woman, right? And he goes, I said your profile pic, you can't hide from yourself. No one's fooled or confused but you. Like, this is what.
Wait, what?
Hold on.
Right.
I'm just like, what? Okay, what is he calling you out about exactly?
I don't know. I guess my profile pic is too pale. First of all, it was a pic from winter. And I am not a brownish person. And naturally, I'm a very light-skinned person. Yeah. During the winter, unless I'm self-tanning, that comes out. Yeah. And so my profile pic is one from winter, and I'm really light in it. And I guess he didn't like that. So
I guess he felt some type of way about your Blackness today.
Yeah. And then there was another girl on that same post who called me a Jan. I'm assuming this is the same thing as a Karen.
Is this new? That's what the kids are calling a Jan?
The Jan? Is that what the youth is referring to now?
The youth is saying something. I
was going to screenshot it, and then I went back maybe like 2 hours later to look for it, and she deleted her whole thing to me. Maybe she went onto my profile and had an enlightened moment. Right. Like, wow.
She's like, ooh.
Well, when you know better, you do better. So
right, exactly. You know what? Honestly, that's all you can ask people right now is to know better and do better. If they know better and don't do better, that's where I have a problem.
On that note, do you feel like influencers have a responsibility to speak up? And did you notice the people who didn't speak up, and how did that make you feel? Because I know I noticed people who didn't speak up, especially people I followed for years. Like
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, I see you. Yeah, I did a lot of unfollowing because I'm like, and then some influencers for me, I'm like, you took too long to do it. Since it was okay trend, you did it.
Right. And
so how do you feel about that?
That goes to that post I wrote where I said Black people are not a trend, you know?
Yeah.
I started seeing that we're going to mute for 7 days, I believe Monday, and I was on the phone with my girlfriend my friend in Atlanta, Nakia Phoenix. I don't know if you guys know her.
Yeah.
So Nakia and I talk every morning. Every morning we have our little session while I'm making coffee and she's doing whatever she's doing. Every morning we talk. So this particular day I was like, girl, I'm starting to see like all these, like, I'm muting my posts for 7 days. And it was so weird because it was like all the same exact kind of
wording.
slide and wording. And I was like, what is this, like something everybody was told to do? Like, what is this? And at that point, I didn't know about the Tuesday mute, the Blackout Tuesday. I didn't even know about that yet. I just saw the 7 day. And my immediate reaction was that this is a way to not have to talk about this for the next 7 days until it dies out. That was my immediate reaction. And so I was like, I'm going to sit on it overnight because, I get fired up and I've learned to not, when I'm fired up, I've learned to pull it back.
Smart.
It's called growth. It's called growth.
Yeah, exactly. It's growth. I've gotten myself in a lot of trouble when I was younger. So I was like, let me go ahead and sleep on this tonight. And then I woke up the next morning and to just black feed. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, this is not good. This is not good. And that's when I wrote the post about, how about posting about Black history and Black people and Black
everything.
Culture. Yeah.
Creative.
Exactly. And I did notice, later that day, I noticed people started to change their captions to muted but not silent. That happened. Yes. And then I noticed all those people that I saw, most of them that I saw said muted, had either taken it down or like completely changed it. So I was like, okay, well, at least the message got across. But there are still like, I definitely was like trolling some accounts yesterday. Like, did you say anything? And there's a few people who they saw black squares, and this is Sunday.
This Sunday. This is God's day.
Haven't anything, and stories are fine, but they're up for 24 hours and they're gone.
Yeah, we want more. Be vocalized.
Like, have a permanent post about this.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely one huge Caucasian, not American influencer who I've followed since day one. I've been doing this since 2010. She's been doing this, I think, maybe like two or 3 years before that. And cricket, nothing. There's nothing on her. And it's so disappointing to me.
Heather and I have these conversations like a lot. Like, I think last week she had an incident that she felt that was very racial towards her. She called me. We had a long discussion about it.
So yeah, I was out in public and I was clearly like, my dad and I are the only Asian people out here, and I like was wearing a mask and definitely got the stares by 100 and some odd people that obviously did not look like me. They were all Caucasian, and it was an event for a family, and so I take pictures for them every now and then, and so I was just taking some behind the scenes photos, things. I've been there like 3 or 4 times before. Like, this was not a place where I had never been before, and these people had never like not known me or not seen me before. So I think that's what hit a little bit harder too, was the stares and the comments and where are you from? Why are you here? Why don't you go back? And it was just like, oh my God. It was so enlightening because, when you grow up in a small farm town, everybody kind of knows you. So especially since you stick out, like everybody kind of knows you. And then all of a sudden it's like you cover half of your face so people aren't exactly sure like who you are now. And then you're like, this is how you would treat a complete stranger.
Yeah. Or this is what they thought about you the whole time.
Or this is what they thought about me the whole time. Exactly. And it's like, you definitely have that moment. I had to call Chauncey and I was like, I don't really know what to do with this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I'm hurt. I'm angry. I'm all of the above. I don't know what to do with this. So we had like a long-winded conversation about it.
Yeah.
But you have to have those conversations, because if you don't have them, it's just bottled in. And you're just like, I don't want to, you know, project on anyone else, but shoot, I'm not okay right now.
I am actually shocked, and a lot of people aren't, at the level of venom that people have come out with in the last 4 years. I honestly didn't. First of all, I'm from Los Angeles. So I grew up in mid-city Los Angeles.
Okay.
Very diverse. You know, my high school was like mostly Black and Hispanic, but you know, all around me, everywhere I went, there's all kinds of people. So when, you know, I have friends who are from like the Midwest, and they have very strong feelings towards white people. And I honestly didn't understand that about 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I was like, God, don't, you know, or my grandmother, my 97-year-old grandmother, Mamie Hansberry, you know, she will have, she's going to kill me for saying it. She will have 2 gin martinis. She's 97.
Ooh.
And I don't care where we are, she starts talking to white people about racism. This has been my entire life. And I, you know, when I was younger, I'd be like, oh God, why are you doing this? This week, I called her to thank her, because I said, I don't know how you lived through all that.
Right.
All these years, because we've been dealing with this so directly for the last 2 weeks, pretty much. You know what I mean? Just everything in your face, all in your face, in your face. Or the last 4 years, more everything in your face. I would be mentally exhausted if I was in my 90s, you know? And her sometimes true anger towards white people, I really understand, because she's seen things I'm not going to say
never experienced.
Never see, but now I've seen them with George Floyd. I've seen it, you know. But she's seen that. All 4 of her, I believe, her uncles were lynched. All doctors lynched at the same time, you know. So it's like her, and my other grandmother, who's from New Orleans, who has a whole different set of racial stuff that's happened with her. They have very different kind of backgrounds. I had to thank them both, because I was like, I'm exhausted. I physically am exhausted. You know what I mean? Like before this Zoom, I was like piling on concealer, because I'm like,
there's a lot of makeup on us.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a lot of eye cream. Like I love eye cream, so I'm all about that. I was like in the middle. I was like, hold on, put some more eye cream on before we start this talk. But it's a lot. You grew up in LA. Like Heather grew up in a small town, and I grew up in the Bay Area. So like it's very diverse, and like I've had a couple of racist incidents in my life, but nothing like other people have had. And I'm privileged in that fact that I didn't have to have it directly to my face every day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like we don't see the difference until like now we're like, oh, I live in the Bay Area. I was like kind of sheltered how horrible it is for some people.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're just like, I look at my dad who's 71. He's from Michigan. He's from Detroit.
Oh.
So he's seen some things, but he's a light-skinned man, so he had different experiences, even like different than I can imagine.
Right.
Because he's, you know, and then my mom, she's from Oakland, so she had experiences, but she was like, she didn't have the same as my dad. And you think about that, you're like, wait, like this is how people live every day.
Yeah.